Hello to all of our friends and family out there in Parent Tween land. I'm excited to have you join us today for another awesome guest who's going to be talking with us today on the Parent Tween Connection Talks about parenting boys, not just teenagers, but boys in particular. So, Kathy, thank you for joining us. I'm super excited to have you.
Thank you.
And so, Kathy, let's start with where are you in the world? Because a lot of our audience is actually US based, but we are certainly gathering more and more folks and support as well as families from around the world. So, where are you and how did you come to be a coach for parents of boys?
Well, I'm in Japan. I've been living here. I'm Canadian by birth, but I've been here a total of 31 years, so a little bit longer than I was in Canada. I am a retired educator, so I have been in education and pursue what my passion is, and that's connected with understanding and then sharing that understanding of the inner emotional world of boys. And so that naturally leads me to what I'm doing today.
That is awesome. All right. So, as I mentioned to you before we went live today, we actually had a guest the other day who specifically focuses on coaching young girls. And so I love the fact that I had both of you with such important things to share that happen to be able to schedule in the same week so that we can kind of balance it out for parents. And again, right now we're speaking in the binary, guys, girls world, but much of this is going to apply even to folks who are in the non-binary world, I would expect, because gender is a cultural instinct or cultural construct, if you will. So you wanted to start off with talking about what you call boy talk, as in, like, what is the boy code, first of all?
So I came across that term. That was one of the first books that I read in the late 90s about boys, and that was Dr. William Pollock, and he wrote Real Boys. And these were the three myths that he said, and he called it the boy code. So of the three myths, the first one is boys will be boys. And that talks to the concept that boys, are naturally aggressive because of the testosterone. The second component, the second myth, was boys should be boys. And that's saying that, really the only acceptable emotion for boys is anger, and that they should never show any weakness or vulnerability. And the third myth is that boys are toxic. So they are a danger to society, basically. And those are the myths on what society says. This is what it means to be a boy. This is, how you should behave in order to fit the mold, to fit in. But the truth is far from those myths. And boys' behavior is shaped much more by their loved ones than by nature. And they are extremely empathetic when they have an opportunity to share that particular kind of emotion.
And I know from having seen, obviously, like the movies that we watch and the books that we read or the stories that we see in the news is, oh, rub some dirt on it, get up and don't cry. And there's all kinds of pejorative terms toward boys when they do show emotions, and even toward adults. I know my husband has said that, among him and a lot of his friends, a lot of them are even afraid to share their emotions as adults with their spouses or their partners because they feel like they end up coming back and being victimized by having shared that vulnerability because, well, you're not supposed to be that. You're supposed to be big and manly and strong and whatnot. So this isn't just an issue that our young boys are addressing, our kids, teenagers, but it's something that can perpetuate even into adulthood.
Well, I think all of the things that you learn about, the emotional world of males, it transfers to any age, any relationship. And so since, half of the population is male, it, serves all of us well to try to understand each other a little bit better. And definitely is an issue.
Yeah, for sure. So the second point that you had said that you wanted to discuss has to do with the masks that boys wear. And I'm curious what your perspective is on this, because I know females or, women can mask as well. And then there's also masking when we're navigating mental health challenges like ADHD or autism, or things where it's not socially acceptable to behave in certain ways, that kids mask regardless of gender or gender stereotypes. They mask when we have to mask when we have to go out in the world and survive, right? And then we come home and take the mask off, and all hell breaks loose sometimes. So what's your perspective on that relative to the boys?
Well, from a very young age, boys receive certain messages on connected with the boy code. And when they don't follow what the code is, if they show different emotions, there's a threat of them not being accepted or embarrassed or not connected. So when you have a little boy, for example, and learning to ride his bicycle, his dad has taken him out, he falls down, he really hurts himself, he starts to cry. And dad says, come on, pick yourself up, not a big deal,
Rub some
kind of.
dirt in it.
Yeah, and then that's it. And so what that little boy learns is that the next time that he needs to put on a mask and show that that's not what he's feeling, that he is, stronger than that he is a boy. And what happens is that will do anything that they can in order to keep the connection strong. And happens is sometimes when they get older, they have put on so many masks that it is very challenging for them to try to tap back into that, the authentic feelings that they have inside and be able to share those.
So then okay. So that carries then into, like you say, they learn to put the masks on, mask upon mask upon mask, overlapping masks, layered masks, right, throughout time. This obviously impacts a whole host of, it doesn't, I think the list of what it doesn't impact would be shorter than the list of what it does impact. And so then we've actually got a couple of folks commenting like, sharing my feelings with a significant other rarely goes well. Or I learned from my dad to hide my emotions, be strong, be a man, that kind of messaging. So then we also get this nasty little thing called shame that comes up around all of this. How does that play in on top of the masks that we're already navigating, or that the boys and the men in our lives are wearing?
Shame is a really, really important thing to learn because, even although girls and women also feel shame, it seems
For
to
sure.
be that the impact that it has on a male, and especially a young boy, is intensified. So it is one of the worst emotions that they can feel is to be shamed or embarrassed, especially when it's in little boy might be pointed out for misbehaving and made to isolate or whatever until he can pull himself together. That feeling of shame is not just I did something wrong. It's internalized to I'm bad, I'm not worthy,
Right.
of being this. And that's a really debilitating kind of emotion for a boy to have to deal with.
I'm glad that you make that point, because one of the distinctions that many of our guests make, and we end up having conversations around, is the culture of being versus doing, that you are something versus you do something. Like you, on the behavior side, you have behaved poorly or you made a poor decision, as opposed to you are a bad person, right? And
Yes.
so recognizing that distinction for our boys, and kids, period, but I'm understanding from you, boys in particular obviously deal with it differently than the girls do. And really, one of the points that I often make to parents is to say, I love you even when you make a mistake, not even if. And that's, I love you. It might be the behavior that I don't love so much, but I still love you as a human, as a worthy human entity.
Differences in how we react to it as far as male and females, and how boys react to shame is different than how a little girl reacts. So, and there's a variety of ways. Like some little boys will just shut down as soon as that experience happens. They will just shut down completely. Mm-hmm. Some of them will internalize it and just become very anxious and depressed, and others will turn it outward and they will become very angry and defiant. And it's this whole concept they get, I'm not good enough as I am, but it shows up differently than it might for a girl. So it's not always
okay. Thank you for your patience. If y'all are tuning in, if you're noticing there's a little bit of lag, I'm certainly noticing it. So Kathy, thank you for sticking with me from across the other side of the globe. So recognizing that cultural shift and a movement happens one person by one person, and in our case, one family by one family by one family, right? Like, we're not going to go out and change the culture in the entire world overnight, but we can change the way that we show up in our nuclear families and even in our extended families. Like, I'm actually not a mom myself, but some of my closest friends are parents, and actually two of them, in fact, are parents of boys. And so it's good for me to hear, because I am close to all of their boys, to be able to support them. What are some of the things that parents can do? Because parents are still the first line of defense. They're not the only line of defense, right? But they're the first ones. And so what are some steps that they can take to help shift this narrative one child at a time, one teenager at a time?
So the very first thing is an awareness, because if you're not aware that there's a problem, then basically you're just going to perpetuate it. I know in our second talk, we're talking about unconscious gender bias, but that's one place to start, to see what it is you're bringing to the table and what's impacting your parenting. The other thing I think to recognize is just how important the family is and parenting is. And even when the whole of society is giving a particular message, if your son knows that your family understands, or at least one person in the family understands what their challenges are, what their gifts are, what it's like for them going to school, like in an environment where, people look at them and empathy, confidence, self-worth.
Right. And then, like I was saying earlier, like this is just starting based on, oh, it looks like we might have lost Kathy for just a second. Okay, we're back. Good. And then I feel like we're also adding, like, we're not even necessarily getting into the complexities of mental health. If we've got, for example, rejection sensitivity dysphoria is very common among ADHD, or for kids who are navigating autism, where emotional regulation is that much more challenging, regardless of the gender, right? There's other overlaying factors that can impact this. So you said the first thing you identified, be present, be with the family, recognize how important this is, and be that one person. Statistics actually say, like, when we go to the extreme of some of the challenges that kids face, when we're talking about kids who are navigating depression, suicidal ideation, things like that, it only takes one adult to be the person that is a lifeline for that young adult. And if it can be a parent, great. But if it's not, maybe it's the aunt, maybe it's the uncle, maybe it's a school counselor, maybe it's a mentor through an extracurricular or a volunteerism. But if we can be that one person, that can make a huge difference. What are some other steps that you would recommend that parents can take?
Well, In general, I usually work with families that are younger than the teens. But one of the things that I think it can be a really like a simple thing in some ways, but really powerful is as a parent, when your child is probably in the tweens before they move into the teen years, if you start looking at different ways connected with rites of passage, like rites of
Mm-hmm.
passage are not common in North America anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And 13, I created one myself because I figured, why not? What have I got to lose? There might be, a powerful thing. But I think often the problems connected with risk taking, substance abuse, problems in relationships that happen during that like turmoil of the
Mm-hmm.
teen years often comes because there is no signal for those boys to,
Mm-hmm.
okay, it's time to put away your boyish ways and move into manhood. There aren't the guidelines. There's not the understanding that there are for, like, a girl knows it the moment she has her first cycle.
Mm-hmm.
The boy doesn't have that kind of expectation.
Got it. So one of the comments that a listener just commented, they said, presumably coming from a man, I hear from my significant other that they do want me to express myself, but then when I do, the reaction that I get is, you shouldn't feel like that because you're a man. And I will say, from a woman who has navigated a lot of really hard things emotionally, with a husband who has navigated some major emotional challenges and suicidal ideation, even as adult, that pisses me off, because your feelings are valid no matter what. Like, it's not a whether you're a woman, a man, an alien, a Martian, or a dog. Your feelings are your feelings. And I'm sorry that's something that we still even deal with today.
Well, I think women need to take on a lot more, because I think if we don't understand, then we are not in relationships with men or males um,
Mm-hmm.
with the same understanding and compassion. Like, we're not the same. And
Mm-hmm.
yet, if a woman expects her male counterpart to react or communicate or participate in the same way that they would another female, then
Mm-hmm.
you can't help but have challenges. So I think part of the real issue is that as women, we are not aware enough of what those differences are and
Mm-hmm.
respecting that and then working together. So we say we want this, be more vulnerable, be more soft. And then we say, well, why aren't you opening the door for me?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, and that was one of the reasons that I wanted to bring you on as a guest, because I know that where the men land as adults doesn't just magically happen once they hit adulthood. It's a lifetime of generative experiences, or contributing
It is.
experiences.
Yeah, it
Okay.
definitely is.
So I have two final questions so that we can wrap up here by the half hour. My first question is this. So everything that we do at Parent Tween Connection is based on what I call the foundations of connection. And these came out of a conversation that I had with myself, I don't know, 6 years ago or so, where I was like, why is it that, as somebody who doesn't have kids, but I've worked in a coaching space with kids for nearly 30 years at this point, why is it that my teenagers are often more comfortable coming and talking to me about some heavy things before they're ready to talk to their parents? And in fact, maybe they're never going to be ready to talk to their parents, depending, right? And so I took the word connection, and it has turned into an acronym. And so what I'd like to do is rattle these off, and anybody who's listening in, tell me which one resonates for you. But Kathy, I'm going to ask you on the spot, which one just kind of like jumps up and like resonates really loud. And you don't have to memorize it, just be like the one about blah, blah, blah. Okay. And for listeners, if you would like a copy of these to put on your fridge or to put on your desk at the office or something like that, we do have them as a free download on our website. But so they are in the order of the letters of connection: create a safe place, observe, non-judgment, nod and smile, explore or educate. That might also be the E. The second C then is challenge your truths, take your time, innovate, own your own story or nurture? And I'm hoping most of those came through to you. I know we still have a little bit of lag over the Pacific between us.
Yeah, the first group didn't come through.
Okay, create a safe place, observe, non-judgment were the first three.
Okay.
Any of them particularly powerful for you today?
Well, I would say the non-judgment. It's
Yeah.
certainly something that kind of guides a lot of things that I do is, and I think it really helps when you're trying to look at things so that you are not being biased by gender. So if you can
Mhm.
look at a situation and think, would I be doing this same thing if this was a woman in front of me? Or would I be saying the same thing if this was my son and not my daughter, or vice versa? I think when
Mhm.
we can try to be less judgmental, we can be more open and compassionate and see things. So observe was that other one, because when you're
Mhm.
not judgmental, it's often because you're curious and because you are really watching and listening.
Awesome. Kathy, if folks want to learn more about the work that you do, the support that you offer for young men, young boys and their families, where do they go to find out more?
Everything is on my website. It's called Sonhood, Sonhood, sonhoodcoaching.com. I'm also on all the social media, but the link tree that is on Instagram has a list of a lot of free resources that people are welcome to jump onto.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. So for those of you who have not checked that out, do take a look at it, sonhoodcoaching.com. Again, if you want a copy of the Foundations of Connection, you can pop over to parenttweenconnection.com and download it there. Wherever you're tuning in, do make sure to click like or follow, subscribe, whatever platform you're finding us on. That way you will get notified about any of our upcoming speakers and talks that we're going to have. Wow, words are hard right now, Kathy. And at Parent Tween Connection, we aim to support families primarily with children between the ages of 10 and 20. We are looking to expand that here in the next 6 to 12 months so that we can serve the panoply of families across the spectrum of ages. But we say that we are where parents go when they don't know where to go, because we bring in an array of professionals like Kathy to talk about the absolute wide spectrum of conversations that there are to have relative to having teens and tweens. And then again, as we grow, to having younger kiddos. So, Kathy, thank you for helping us become the place that parents go when they don't know where to go by offering your insight and your wisdom.
It's my pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
And one more plug, we are going to head over, Kathy and I, to the Parent Tween Village, which is our private family community here at Parent Tween Connection, to have a conversation that dives deeper into gender bias. So if you are not yet a member of Parent Tween Village, you are welcome to come over and check it out. Again, we will be streaming live into the community. And if you do miss the live stream, it will absolutely live there forever and ever. Amen. So that you can catch the replay. So, Kathy, stand by. We will see you shortly.
Okay.